everybody. This is your lesson for 8-6, factor by grouping. You've actually done this before when we factored back on 8-3. And so this actually should be pretty easy for you, I think. So let's look at the smartboard and this presentation and see what it says. First of all, you can put today's date in. You can see the pages are 214 to 215. And let's take a look at my example here on the board for you. I start with this trinomial. And as a reminder, it would have been A and C, which would have been negative 18. So I look for my factors of that, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. I go back and say I want to make negative 3. So I would have chosen these two factors, negative here. And so that's what they did right here for you. So today, actually, you will not have to do any of this. They're going to start you at this step. And then you would finish factoring it. So kind of nice. They're going to start us with the middle term rewritten, which is kind of cool. So we are going to factor by grouping. I'm going to go to my first example problem for you. And we are going to do examples problem 5 to 8 today, 5 to 8. So if you are playing along in your textbook on page 215, this is number 5. All right, so they have already given us the middle term rewritten. And so this is a little different than we've seen because we start with an x cubed. But again, we're going to see it as 4 terms, okay, which is kind of nice. So all you have to do, the first thing we should check, is it in standard form? Is it in decreasing order? Well, we go from a third to a squared to an x to a 7. So yes, it is in decreasing order. So I don't need to put it in standard form. So my next step then would be to factor by grouping. So group the first binomial and group the second binomial. And let's pull out the greatest common monomial factor out of each of these. So let's look at our first one. What can we pull out? Well, they both share an x, and actually they both share an x squared that can be pulled out of it. If I pull an x squared out, I'm left with x minus 7. All right, so I need my second one to say x minus 7. Well, here's the deal. It actually already says x minus 7. So what can you pull out to leave it as x minus 7? Nothing but a 1. So we can pull out a 1 because 1 times itself is still going to be x minus 7. All right, that's step 1. Step 2 then is to rewrite this as the 2 binomials. So I know that I have an x minus 7 as one of my binomials. And then I have x squared and a positive 1, so it'd be x squared plus 1. That is your final answer for today. And you could switch the order of these. It could say x squared plus 1 times x minus 7. That is the same thing. To check it, you would go ahead and FOIL this or box method it, and you should come up with the original equation. All right, number 2. Again, it's rewritten with 4 terms. But I see this time they are not in standard form. It will work if you don't put it in standard form, but a good rule of thumb is to put it in standard form. So I'm going to rewrite this in standard form. So in standard form, 6p cubed is my biggest term, but then my next biggest one would be minus 14p squared. And then plus 15p, and then minus 35. All right, let's factor by grouping. Group the first 2 and the next 2 to make 2 binomials. And let's pull out their greatest common monomial factor. All right, 6 and 14 are both even, so I can definitely pull out a 2. And then I see p cubed and p squared, they share a p squared. So if I pull out 2p squared, I'm left with 3p minus 7. All right, I need the other one to say 3p minus 7. Let's pull out their greatest common monomial factor. 15 and 35 both definitely share a positive 5. I'm going to pull out a positive so I don't change any of my signs. And I would have p minus, 3p, let's put it in there, minus 7. Hey, they match, right? Your 2 binomials 2p squared. This is positive, so plus 5. And 3p minus 7. That is your final answer. And to check it, box method it, and you should end up with that original problem. All right, 2 to go. Number 7, check if it's in standard form. Y cubed, y squared, y, and no variable. Yes, it is in standard form. So let's factor this by grouping. Group together and group together. All right, let's see what they share. 4 and 10 are both even. So we'll pull out a 2, and then y cubed and y squared will take on a y squared. So let's divide each of these terms by that greatest common monomial factor. I'm left with 2y plus 5. All right, I want my other one to say 2y plus 5. So 6 and 15, their common factor is going to be a 3. If I divide both by 3, I'd end up with 2y plus 5. Perfect. So my final answer is 2y squared plus 3 times 2y plus 5. And again, if you want to check that, do the box method or FOIL it. Last problem. All right, 18n squared, and then I see an n cubed, and then I see an n to the 5th, and then I see a 12. So number 1, I'm actually missing some terms, and that's okay. But they're definitely not in descending order. And so let's put it in that descending order and see if this works out for us. So my biggest term would be this 3n to the 5th, and then I'd have plus 2n cubed. Squared is next, so plus 18n squared, and plus because it's positive, and then plus 12. All right, let's factor by grouping. So group the binomials, and let's pull out 3 and 2 don't actually share any factors in common. Their greatest common factor is 1. So we're not going to pull any numbers out, but I'm n to the 5th and n to the 3rd. I could pull out a whole n to the 3rd and see what I get left. I'd be left with 3n squared plus 2. All right, I need my next one to say 3n squared plus 2. 18 and 12 both share a factor of 6. That's their greatest factor we can pull out. So let's pull out a 6, divide both by 6. I would have, oops, I missed my 3. Let's put that there. I'd have a 3n squared if I'm dividing this by 6. 18 divided by 3, or 6 is 3, and I still have an n squared, and then plus 2. Hey, they match. That's great news. I'm going to write my 2 binomials. So I have n cubed plus 6, and 3n squared plus 2. That is how you factor by grouping. So again, they're going to give it to us 4 terms today. You should put it in standard form or decreasing order and pull up the greatest common monomial factors, getting those parentheses to equal the same thing, and then rewrite as a pair of binomials. Good luck with your homework, everyone. I miss you all. Hopefully I get to see you all very soon.